Right, morning guys. So welcome back to, new video. I finished editing one this morning and it's rendering, so I'll render it probably. I just got to upload it when I probably come home. So that would have been the one that was putting this together. So we're going to do a little bit of final detail work on this. I think about the time that this come in, I was mucking around little bits and pieces on this, and we had to repaint these edges. I think when I was wet sanding and buffing, I broke through in a few little spots. Trying to remember. It was about the time that I was getting really close to being finished with this, but we were still waiting on the bright work, obviously. And then this came in, and I sort of pushed this aside, and we chopped into the Dodge and got to where it's now. So once I get this a bit more completed, hopefully this week, today's Tuesday, hopefully if we get this a wee bit further this week, and I'd like to say running, but I don't know if I quite get there. We'll see. By the time we get just a little bit of wiring and shit sorted out, and at some point I'll have to put the guards on and work out the headlight stuff. That's probably right at the end, to be honest. Headlights and stuff like that will be one of the last things I do. But yeah, we really need to get it to the point where at least it turns over, get some oil in it, make sure it's got spark. Obviously put fuel in the tank, make sure that's working, it's pulling the fuel through. They've contemplated cutting the fuel line that I made near the back and putting just a low pressure pump through to help push the fuel through to the what do you want to call it? The vacuum pump. I don't know quite what we'll do there. We could put it in there, maybe put a regulator and just turn it down really low so it's only kept pushing through like a couple of 3 pound, I guess. I don't know, just so it's not overwhelming that. I don't know, it's either that or we'll just have to take it off. We'll see. If it works, fine, we'll leave it. If it doesn't work, well, then we can always put a pump in or whatever. Electric pump in. It's one of those things that's, it's a really old technology. It's a bit iffy. They're always a bit iffy. I know a lot of people that would actually turn the car around and back up a hill if it was really steep because the fuel's running forward. Unless it was like a Model A. Even then, Model A, like the fuel tank was up underneath the cow. But, so it had a bit more gravity. But it's a long way to drag it from there to there when you've got no vacuum, or you run out of vacuum on the fuel because you're under hard acceleration. You got no vacuums, but at least if you're pushing up a steep hill, the fuels will naturally want to run down the fuel line, so it's kind of overcoming the vacuum problem, if you know what I mean. So that's why I know a lot of people, they get to the point where it won't go up forward, so they'll go up backwards. They'll reverse up a hill. I've seen a lot of people do it in really old vintage, 20s, 30s stuff before they got past the vacuum pump sort of thing, and got to mechanical fuel pumps. But like an electric pump would be the way to go. But we're trying to get it as close to the original one. If it works, it works. But if it's a bit of an issue, it's not hard to put an electric pump on it. But but it is still only on 6 volts too, so we have to be careful with that. But anyway, what I want to do this morning is do a little bit more detail work on this hood side, get that polished, get that on, make sure all those clamps work properly on the other side, when we don't have this issue where this one's worn. Unfortunately, when we got all these bits together, because we had to find a few, I can't remember if we had 1 here or 2. I think we might have just had 1 and we ended up with 3. more from a different area. But unfortunately, one of those pieces that we got nickeled, didn't realise it had quite so much wear in it. Now it's loose, but I'm hoping that maybe I might be able to shift it to maybe one of the back spots, and it might be just enough to be tighter, or that we might just do a little bit of modification to the body of it and just shorten it up a little bit, because we don't want to really nickel the handle. We'll try and avoid that, because I could have, at the time, if I realised it was so worn, was actually build it up with a bit of bronze, bronze weld. I could have built it up with a bit of, float a bit of bronze weld into it, or even a bit of properly, solder maybe, or something like that. I could have filled it with a bit of something and just reshaped it. I didn't realise it was quite so worn. But yeah, if we have to, we might move it round until we find it where it comes tight in one of these areas, one of the hold downs, or we might just have to do a little bit of modification to the body. It's easier to repaint a little piece than screw around and fix the head. If we have to shorten it by, a little bit, put a cutting disc through. I was thinking maybe through the bottom of the body if I had to on this, and just shorten it up a little bit, if you know what I mean, and re-weld it on. Yeah, it might be too much of an issue, if you know what I mean. We'll see, but so we've got to repaint the little bases anyway, because I did modify them in the last video. If you haven't seen, these when I rebuilt the bottoms, because everything was so worn out, I didn't have enough slot in the little bottom holder for them to hang back enough to get them over this. When I originally had these sitting on here, they were sitting about here, and they would, the handles would come down and bang on these, and you couldn't get them past, This here, you can sort of turn it around, and then you give that, well, you can get it past, but you sort of got to have it on a bit of an angle, but then put it up and put it on. It's just a little bit loose, this one. And here, it's a bit worn, so it's a bit unfortunate, but we'll work our way around it. Alrighty, so I've polished that, cleaned it all up, whatever, and I've just discovered something, and I think this is why this other side's quite so loose. I think these here are meant to be different lengths on the front. I don't know, because they're sitting up there at the back, but for some reason it seems to sit very, well, I wouldn't say low, but it's lower. And the other side's not quite so bad. But, yeah, for some reason this side is lower, so this handle doesn't even catch on this one. It's miles too long, so I may have to shorten those up. I don't know if the originals are shorter. Who would know? Without having another one here, I have no clue. The back one's fine. It grabs on. Like, it's not terribly tight, but it's on there quite nicely. But yeah, so that front one's very, very over length. So yeah, it makes me wonder whether I might pull them all off and just check the lengths of them. I thought they were all the same, but they may not be. But I just wonder if these, originally, because we had to find them, what if the front ones are actually shorter in the body a bit? And, yeah, like, unless you're a real expert, you wouldn't know. But, we just found some hold downs that were all the same and assumed that they were how they were meant to be, but I don't know. Yeah. Just gonna have a look at that cat. Just wonder if it was hanging down a little bit further, but I could always lift the radiator up, but then I've got to be careful that I don't have this issue because it's already close to down here. Not that we need the crank start, but if you ever needed to, you wouldn't be able to. I'd have to lift the motor too. You know, 1/4 of an inch. So if I lift the shell up a little bit, to lift this stuff a little bit, to get those tight, then yeah, we start running the other issues. You had to like lift the motor. It could come up, the motor could come up a little bit anyway to be in the centre of that. But then you've got the balance issues, you know, the hole in there. Then I'd have to check to make sure it wasn't going to collect that bit. So I think the easiest solution is to just shorten those front two a bit and repaint them. I'll just cut them at the bottom where the little thing is and then just re-weld it back on and yeah, and then hope that everything's good. So all I can think to do is just cut the bottoms off them, you know, like say that far up, and just take a little bit out, re-weld it on, clean it all up, you know, and shorten them up a little bit. I can always shorten the piece inside it too, if you know what I mean. Like, and I can squish the spring up and whatever. Like it's not a major, but obviously something needs to be done. Something needs to be done because it can't be just flapping around like that. It's no good to me. So yeah, I haven't tried swapping them around, which I might do just to see, but I think they're all about the same length. But it's not to say that the front ones were shorter, or because this engine is solid mounted, it's not meant to be on anything. Because the engine is solid mounted, I've got to put the bolts in. I haven't bolted it down yet where the bolts are in the front, but I haven't done them up at the bottom, and I haven't slipped those back bolts in yet because we weren't sure what was going on here. But yeah, I just don't know whether these are meant to be shorter or whether this is meant to be up a little bit. I don't know if there was meant to be a little space underneath the front of the motor. I don't know. But yeah, these are too long, so I might pull them off. I've got to paint the little bases anyway, so it's no biggie. we'll just see if there are different lengths, whether they are a little bit shorter, and swap them around. But I think I'm going to have to shorten these front ones. I may, that one there, if that fits right in the back with it being a wee bit worn, I won't shorten it. Oh, that's probably not going to make any difference, but yeah, we'll have to shorten one of them anyway, on each side, because this one's loose. But if I swap that to there, it mightn't be so bad, if you know what I mean. We'll see. This might be a little bit tighter for that one on the back, and that there might fit the front better. We'll see. We'll swap them around and we'll see. But and we'll have a quick look. But I've got a sneaking suspicion we're going to have to shorten at least this one, and might have to shorten the other one a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something odd going on there. Righty. So I just pulled all these off. I just checked, basically put the ruler underneath here, and then just pulled this until it's tight without stretching the spring. So that one's 80 mils, or touch over 3 inches. This one here, so that's one. That's the one that's a bit. Is that one? Yeah. It's actually not as bad as what I thought. That one that I thought was really worn. So this one here is about 75. So those ones are just on the 3 inches. The base. Hopefully you can see that. So that one is actually the shortest and the slack, and that was actually on the back, on the on the other side that I just put on, put the hood side on. So this is just over that 3 inches as well. It's not quite as long as that one. And this one's at the 80 as well. So what I might do is I might put the shortest one at the front on that far side from me at the moment, and see how that pulls up. And I might, I think this was the next shortest, was it? It's sort of not really liking it. That one's just over, like it's probably more like 82, 83. I might stick that one at the back. So I might put that one at the back, that one at the front, on that far side, and see what it's like. Because these ones here are more even. And just see whether that makes any difference with the way it holds down. So we might have to shorten one of these up. We'll see. We'll fit these back on the other side as well, and just work out whether we need to do anything. These two are actually less worn than the other. This one's actually slightly different. This one? No, this one here is a little bit different to the rest. Just in this nose piece, and these are a little bit tighter than the others, but they're close enough that you don't really notice, if you know what I mean. But basically they're exactly the same within reason. These might have been all like this one, I don't know, or it might have been just a slightly different year or different manufacturer, you wouldn't know. Yeah, they might have been made in a different place. But we'll see. We'll have a bit of a play around, and if we have to shorten something up, we will. Also, I could also cut the rod down maybe, or build it up a bit more in the base and reprofile as well, something. We'll work it out somehow, just to pull a little bit more tension on them instead of cutting the body. We'll work something out. Some of these are a little bit, you know, there's a little bit more gap down here, so they could be pulled up a little bit tighter, but we've got to be careful that we get enough, again, enough clearance to get everything on. But we'll put these back on, and then it'll be actually almost lunchtime. We'll see how we get on. But you'll throw those two back on, check that other side. We'll put the slightly shorter one to the front, and then we will go from there. And we may have to alter something to just tighten the tolerances up a little bit. Righty, so we definitely got some issues on our hands. So this is the shortest one, I think. It's better on here, but it's still not short enough. So that will end up back here. I might try it on the other side, just to see whether it will fit on there all right, you know, see whether it's short enough for that one. But yeah, these were the shortest two, and they're still too long, even this one here. So that one there must have been on here to be the right length. Hold on. Alrighty, so after a lot of fumbling around and changing stuff and whatever, so I haven't altered any of these yet, but this is the shortest one on here. Now it's not really rattly like it was, but it's still too long. But it's close to being the right length. And on the other side, it's obviously shorter. So obviously this is not sitting down flat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start doing some measurements. I might have to pull the sides off, which is not a biggie. I had kind of planned on that anyway, for doing all the extra wiring and bits and pieces. I don't really want the sides in the road. It just means I can flip the side up, and I can put the little bracket and thing that I made up the other day just to hold them up out of the road. But I can still access both sides. But if I want more access on one side, I can have one side up or the other. Yeah, so I need to take those off, probably undo the bolts on here, just see if I can get everything to square up a little bit. Maybe add a little bit of packing to the radiator. I don't know. Maybe it needs to go that way, but I've got to be careful, because if it pull one way to the other, it makes one side shorter, one side longer. Yeah, so I don't know. I need to do some measurements, see if it's square, the front's sitting square, or the radiator to everything else. Make sure it's close to the same measurement side, corner to corner, and obviously top and bottom. Get some rough measurements, make sure we are close. I can probably set the front wheels reasonably straight and just do a rough measurement. Make sure it's reasonably even from front wheel. Make sure it's not cocked one way more than the other. But the measurements diagonally and front to back should tell me that anyway. And just see if we can get these stuff to fit better, and then have another wee fiddle around. This is where it takes a freaking time, eh? Just you get a little job like this, you think you're not far away, you know, you've rebuilt all these things, but because you've never had everything completely together, everything's painted, which changes everything. But yeah, unfortunately we never had those things when we had it all together originally. We never had the opportunity to test everything and make sure that they were right. But again, I had to take the handles off up there, some of them off the other car, and all sorts of funny things like that. So yeah, we just, one thing, you know, or the other, we just didn't quite have everything at one point to have it all on the car together, which is unfortunate, but it's just one of those things. But you think you rebuild an original part, they should fit, but I guess they're all different, all a little bit different. So yeah, I just don't know whether I need to maybe space this up a little bit, just make sure it's square, and go from there. And if we have to do some modifications to these, whether we shorten the housings or maybe shorten these rods a little bit or something, just so they're not quite so long. So I've got the shortest one on this side at the front, and it was really loose on that side, so it's got to be quite a bit shorter on that side. And I think that one there was on that back corner. I'll bolt these back on one more time on that side and see how they fit, because this one's quite nice here, and this one's, like I said, it's not too bad, but yeah, I'd like a little bit more tension on it than that, if you know what I mean. Otherwise it's going to jump off and rattle around. We don't want it to jump off, but it's not too bad. But I think, yeah, we'll do heap measurements and we'll work out what we need to do to get the situation better and just make sure everything is square and we can get these gaps a bit better. I wouldn't mind this just a little bit bigger. This is pretty good. I'm quite happy with this gap. You can kind of see it's not too bad, if you know what I mean. I'd like this gap a little bit bigger here. And I think this is okay. This is okay, it's not too bad down here. And this can probably, it's actually not bad at the bottom, but it kind of needs to go on at top. Maybe, and that might be just getting it sitting square. Don't know. Maybe it doesn't really need to move at the bottom there, but maybe it needs to come out at the bottom there, which will help sort of pivot it like that a little bit. I don't know whether, if that comes in, that will come out and whatever, if you know what I mean. We'll see. It's just a matter of playing with it. You know, sometimes you might just have to get to the happy medium and live with it. But I think that's probably why they had the ties too. They had like a cross tie in some of the other ones. This has got the brackets here, but it doesn't have the brackets on the firewall. So whether this is the right one off this car, it might have been a slightly later version, the right shell, but wasn't the original off this car, if you know what I mean, because they might have added those tabs later. It still had the same front, because that one is different up there. Yeah, it's very, very similar, but it's different. When you get them side by side, you can see the differences, but at first glance, they don't look any different. You know what I mean? Right, we'll carry on. We'll do a wee bit of assessment, see how square we are, and carry on. And I'll cut half a heap of this out, so you have to listen to me waffle. Alright, so I've had this loose, played with a little bit. I did do some measurements, angle and front to back. It was about 1/8 of an inch slightly further forward on this side, the gap slightly different, but the diagonal was very, very, very close, so I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's just the position or whatever. So I loosened it off, I pulled it in a little bit. It kind of doesn't really show. I might have to just loosen them. I might have to loosen them off both again, and then maybe get somebody to help me and then to hold it in place while I tighten it up, just so I can get it better. But it's not too bad. And I'm just playing with these, trying to work out what I'm going to do. I actually swapped a head over onto this one. This is a little bit tighter. It's still loose-ish, but it's not too bad. Contemplating leaving it. But yeah, I've had a look at both of these. I've compared the parts and whatever. That one there is slightly shorter. Don't know. I have swapped bits around a little bit to try and see if they were shorter, but they're not really, because the length of these is about the same. My idea is either to cut this down there at the base and then weld it up and clean it up and whatever, you know, put it in the drawer and just run the die grinder and just get it nice and smooth again. and just shorten it up a bit. So you've actually got to pull the handle up to reach. I don't really want to shorten these. These are, you know, as you can see, they are slightly different. But it doesn't seem to make much difference which way you swap them around. They still end up about the same length. I think because these are the same length between here and this bit roughly. Doesn't seem to make much difference. Whatever order you swap the stuff into. They're still too long for here. Which is weird. I can't really work it out, but they are longer than the other ones by a quarter of an inch-ish than the shortest one, definitely anyway. And with swapping that one head round, it closed the gap up and let that one a little bit. We might have pulled it up an eighth or something like that. That might be just, I think I put the least worn one on there. Yeah, maybe. I think that's the most worn one. I think. Yeah, that one's not too bad. That one's more worn. So yeah, we just played around with it a little bit. As I said, like I've had the sides off, mucked around, measured it, whatever. So yeah, I think we'll have to. I think this will be the easiest way to cut them through here. Cut it off again. Measure it. So to that groove from that piece, it's about 80mm. I'd like to shorten it up so this piece was back down about 75mm to that edge, and that would tighten everything up. And at least then, you know, because there's plenty of claps in these springs. You know, like that's 5mm not going to make a huge difference. Well, yeah, we'll see. We might just shorten it up a bit less than that, but we'll see. We can always cut it and round it and join it again. But I think that's kind of what I need to do, just so there's not so much. So these aren't hanging out the bottom quite so much. With the spring, you know, they're a bit tighter up and just keeping everything together a little bit closer together. That's kind of my thoughts. So we'll do that tomorrow in the morning. But yeah, I'm happy with the progress. It's been a bit slow because there's been a lot of muck around trying to get this right. And I did have to polish that one side up this morning. I'd like to, when I'm finished, actually run back over this with something again, and then I will actually start putting door handles on and fluff around. But we just want to get this front end right. Or better, a little bit better, and fix these little oddball things. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the gaps. Maybe undo it and get somebody to give me a hand to hold it in the right. Just hold it out here, push it in there, sort of type thing, while I lie down there and tighten it up, so I can get it. I'd like to get this gap just a little closer at the top, not so much at the bottom. Don't want to close it up at the bottom, and I think we can get it a little bit closer here. It may sort of, we get it to sort of do this, but stay similar at the bottom. We might just have to leave it like that. We might just better see if we can get a little bit more of a happy medium, if you know what I mean. But it kind of is what it is, without putting those rods on and pulling it corner to corner. There's not much else you can do. But yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it. But anyway, I'm going to bugger off, close up, and we'll tack again tomorrow. So, thanks for watching. Right, morning guys. So, let's see if we can work out what we're going to do with these to make these a bit shorter. Obviously, it's going to probably involve a grinder and a welder, but we'll work it out because they need to be a bit shorter. I'm guessing what I might do is actually have a quickly measure between the bottom and the handles. Well, between the bottom and the handles on the hood side, and just see what that measurement is on the other side with everything, and then I'll make them just so they're just a little bit shorter than that distance when these things are together, if you know what I mean. So at least then you've got to pull it up and put a little bit of tension on it. I think that's the only way I can really sort of do it. I'm hoping that the bodies are short enough. And we'll just go from there and see what happens, I guess. Stop flickering, phone, Jesus. Doesn't like the lights, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so we'll do that and we'll work out what we're going to do. I think I'll probably use a piece of angle iron or something like that, and I might get a little piece of aluminium. Like I said, if I get a little strip of aluminium, I might bend it just so I can sit it in there on the angle iron, and when I'm trying to tack weld it back together, I'm not welding this to the frickin' bit of steel, but yeah, because it's so small. But see how we get on. But yeah, we'll try and shorten these up a little bit. Righty, so I've had a quick measure up. God, stop flack around, Jesus. What are you doing, phone? Weird. Huh. Righty, I think that might be better. So I've had a wee measurement on that side, and I don't actually know if I can get them short enough without altering the bodies. The back one might get away with. This guy's still freaking flickering. Must be the LED lights or something. Yeah, I don't know if I can quite get the body short enough. There's this front one. It's less than 75 mils or 3 inches between here and the base, with the base on the bottom of it. And this is actually longer than that. With that harder, it would still be loose. So what I might do, just for one final check, is lift the side up and do a measurement from down here to up here on the on a point, and then do the same on the other side, and just see whether this is the same level side to side. I may have to try and pick this thing up a little bit and maybe space the motor up a little bit at the front. I don't know, just so I can get that, keep that the crank handle point in a reasonable distance in here. It's actually quite low over here anyway, so it could come up a little bit. But yeah, I think if I lift it up a touch at the front, yeah, I might have to lift it up a touch at the front and then pull it out a little bit, just to get it to sit right. I don't really want to lift it too much, because it actually fits pretty fucking good. It's either that or start chopping those fucking things up. So I didn't really want to do too much. I was hoping that I could shorten those pieces up. And the middle would have been, I guess, probably the simplest way to do it. But yeah, I've got too much to do it. With this one here, with your minimum distance, it's too big a gap. They're always going to be loose, which is not ideal. Want a little bit of tension on there. I just wonder if that just does need to be spaced a little bit. Whereas paint, it actually looks good. Doesn't look like anything weird. You know what I mean? Gap down here's nice. Maybe the gap down here's pretty good. That might be slightly tight there. But yeah, I don't know. I just wonder if it's a little bit crooked or something. But we can't really go any lower on this side either. It needs to come up a touch. I don't know whether maybe I'll just get away with maybe with a 1/8 inch washer or something like that, just enough to lift it just a touch to help that situation. But anyway, I'll do that. This is where all the frickin' time comes in. You can lose hours and hours and hours just fucking around with this shit. But anyway, got to be done. Alright, let's do the measurement. Just want to know, I'm going to use this bracket as a reference. Hopefully it's in the same place. Just want to see what the difference is. Here, up. So we'll go to the center of the hole. So that's 500. Oh, 70. Yeah, 570. Sorry. Man. Yeah. I'm not going to need that today. It's quite cool. Yeah. Right, yeah, so this is this side is higher. So I need to try and lift that side. And like I said, I don't really want this any shorter. So yeah, for some reason, let's lower that side. And there's this side. So that's part of the problem. Pull the sides off again. Right. So, I'm not really any better off. This one might be marginally better, but it probably hasn't really changed much because it hasn't. So, yeah, I don't know whether it was worth doing that or not. It was worth a shot, I guess. Biggest problem is it doesn't actually sit as nice now. We've got a big gap here, a little gap there because it's taller. It wants to. So I mean, it might end up pulling them out, or maybe pulling one out or something like that. I was just trying to fix the problem that I don't want to have to shorten everything. A stupid amount. I'll have a wee measure just see if it has improved that. But yeah, I'll have to have another check to see whether we're still square and what's a crap. So yeah, like we haven't really improved the situation a lot, but maybe that gap's just a bit wider apart so we don't have to shorten the body. We'll see. So yeah, I'll have another nosy, pull them back off. We're gonna have to do something with them anyway, because I can't lift this up any further, otherwise we're just getting into all sorts of issues. And nothing's ever going to fit properly. Like this is all original sheet metal, so it should fit. Yeah, I just don't know if I need. I'd like to close that gap back up. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see if it's square. Maybe I can pull it back this way to help square it up a little bit. If I pull it this way, it'll tend to want to make that go like that. It's just like, actually, it's not too bad on this side. Its gap might be a little small here. Again, could probably come out here on the front, but can. Yeah, we'll have a bit more of a measure up. Oh, fuck, you can just chase your tail with this shit. Yeah, then we'll decide what we're going to do. We'll have a measure up and check square. See what we're going to do to make this shit fit. Righty, so I've cut a second groove in there. I actually cut it a bit far in, but it'll be okay. If I have to, I'll chop a bit out and I'll join it and re-weld it. I tried to cut it in there gently, but it went in a bit quick. Biggest problem is now this is too long. I would like to know what that thread was, because if I could cut it in here a bit further, then I'll just trim it down a little bit, and I'd better get that in. But my biggest problem is now, when I've got that and that, and that is too short. I can't. I'm pushing the clip down in there. Wouldn't be 1/8 of an inch, but it might be getting close into it. I just can't get the clip in there. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of pissing around. So I'm either going to have to cut this and shorten it, or if I'm going to find what the thread is and find something to cut that thread, I'll cut it down here a bit further and then nick the top off it, so we can still wind it in, if you know what I mean. So I haven't got a tap here big enough, or a die. It's bigger than it's bigger than 1/2 inch. I don't know if it would be, because that's 1/2 inch. I don't think I've got anything 5/8. I think it might be 5/8. I don't think I've got anything here 5/8 thread. Even just like a nut or something to try on there. That's way too big. I don't think I've got anything 5/8. I'll have a bit of a hunt around just in case I do. Because the biggest die nut I've got is 1/2 inch here. I think Dad's got a couple of bigger ones, but I don't know if he's got a 5/8. So yeah, that's either, now the choice is to cut it somewhere and join it, and then just dial it up and repaint it and whatever to make it look nice again. Yeah, I'll have to have a poke around. This is what's at the front of the tripod. That's the wrong thread, but I think it might be fine. I think it's a fine thread, but I just want to... Yeah, so I think this is 5/8 coarse. Oh, we got that for the headlights. Ah, no, this is 16 mil, so it's a little bit bigger than 5/8, I think. So it must be 5/8, like fine, or something like that. That's what I need, because this is for the bottom of the headlight. Bolt. So yeah, that's what I need by the looks of it. So maybe Dad's got a dine up there. We've got to go around to Mum and Dad's a wee bit later on, because it's Mum's birthday. So I'll take one of these with me. We'll see. Well, I might take both with me and see if even if I can get another 1/4 of an inch down here or something like that, it might be enough that I can cut 1/4 of an inch off the top of it and just get these things short enough. Yeah, otherwise I'll just cut it and join it. It's just to put a bit more thread on it and trim it off would be just as easy, if you know what I mean, and nicer. Because I probably wouldn't have to paint it, maybe, because I could probably put a bit of tape around there and clamp it device and wind it on a bit, and hopefully not sacrifice the paint too much, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking. It's one of those hard things you got to be. It's not some. I could, which I don't think that's little brass. Yeah, this steel as well. I weld originally to build these ends up. I was just thinking, shit, can I weld that? But yeah, I built them up. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I could just shorten this too, to make it work. But I just put an extra groove in it, but down a bit further. We can always nick that off if it works, if you know what I mean. If it happens to be an issue getting the thing in there, which it possibly will be, but it may not be. It may not be. We've got a wee bit of distance in there that we can play with. You know what I mean? There's more thread in here than there is on here, so it's only going in that far at the moment, you know what I mean? So this doesn't go all the way in there. Yeah, maybe. I might have to shorten it. We'll see. We'll see. Not hard to shorten it. Or weld it or whatever. But it's kind of where I've got to. Sort of back in another one of those messy days. We've completely forgot about Mum's birthday, so Rachel went into town. I looked after the young fella, and it was 3 hours fucking later when she came back. So story of my life lately. I need a fucking other car. It's a pain in the ass. And because it's school holidays, I end up looking after the young fella all the time. She goes away because it's damn sight easier for her to do shit in town without him. But it's a pain in the ass because I just lose so much fucking time here. Anyway, I think that's what we'll do. I'll take these bits with me, see if we can shorten them up a bit. Worst comes to worst, I'll weld it. Cut it and weld it, and just kind of. I'm trying to find the nice way around it, if you know what I mean. Is there a nice way around it? Just to make them work. I don't know, but I was just wondering if maybe these have come off. Because this is a standard 6. I had a special 6 and a big 6 as well, and they're completely different cars, but from all the pictures about this era, they all have that same thing, but it's not the same. They are different sizes, lengths, if you know what I mean, because the handles would probably, I don't know, might have been in a slightly higher or lower position depending on the model of the car. You know, they could have been, I don't know, an eighth, a 1/4 of an inch longer, or 3/8 of an inch longer, or whatever. I don't know. They just seem to be all too long except for one, which is a bit of a pain. But I wonder if that's what it is. I wonder if they're just off the right era, but not quite the right model, and they're just giving us a little bit of an issue. But that's all. So just a wee update, I just swapped bits around again into different bodies and actually managed to get the clip onto this one. That was when I cut the extra groove and I just chopped the top off it because it was pushing against here, but it's not perfect, but it's not bad actually. So if we can get that one to work, we'll be right. I just haven't put this one back together to see, so we'll just quickly do, I want to see where the this falls. We're probably going to have to shorten this body, I think. Throw it back up here for a second. Alright. So yeah, we're just with perseverance and swapping bits around. Eventually get it so you just don't have to do too much, but you see, this is about the same. That's what the other one is, like that slot. I haven't cut another one on this, but I'd never get it in there. You know, we can't get it closed up enough, so we'll have to try and shorten this up if we can. I think that one will be okay now. If we can get another one on there half decently tight. I'll just check this other side. Yeah. I think that back one will be okay. It could probably do with just to be a snug tighter, but it might be alright. You know, it's probably just a matter of test driving it. We can always alter it if we have to a little bit more, especially if we can shorten this up a little bit. We'll see, and then we can alter that. But yeah, so I'll do that very shortly, and then I'll bring you back when I've probably in the morning after we've had a play if Dad's got the right dyno. I'm pretty sure it's 5/8 fine, but we'll find out later on. Cheers. Right, morning guys. So, went round to Mum and Dad's last night for Mum's birthday, and hunted for a what we call a 5/8 fine tap. It wasn't the right thread. But what we discovered was, Dad had a piece of, Dad said, oh, I wonder if it's pipe thread. So he actually had an old, one of these conju fittings floating around. And we screwed it into that, and I was like, now we know what it is. So I was like, oh, instead of mangulating that one and chopping it down and welding it up, we'll use a piece of conju. And we'll make a new one, make a new bottom for it. So if you've got some of the stuff, and maybe you've got some heads, but you haven't got any, maybe the old bottoms are rotten or something like that, conju. The old school stuff is the right thread for a lot of this sort of stuff. I'm guessing a lot of the manufacturers probably use the same thing because the conju was really common. I guess, you know, back 100 years ago plus. It would have been quite a common thing, so I guess they used it. So yeah, it's the right thread. I need to shorten this thread up a little bit because it's a bit long. It's not really, but to get the clip in, it needs to probably be a bit shorter like this. You know, it only needs to be that long, not that long, if you know what I mean. So we need to take about, I don't know, half that off-ish. Probably doesn't need to be quite that low. So yeah, and the spring fits in it obviously. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do is, I've got a few pieces with the thread on the end of it. It's not a biggie. Got plenty of it floating around. So I'm just going to have to try and work out how I'm going to get the end of this to roll over and fold in. I may go around to Dad's. Oh, I can't get the fucking car. Woman. Just trying to think how I can do it. It's either that or I cut it short and just build it up with weld. But I'd like some way to roll it in. If I can. to roll that end over just a little bit shorter. If I come back 1/4 of an inch or a bit less, somewhere between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch, I think that might make the difference. And if it's not short enough, well, I'll probably get another piece so I can make another one out of. And then all we're going to do is paint it and put it together. And obviously, we'll have to cut another little groove in this a bit down and then chop that piece off to get the right length. So yeah, just need to work out some way of doing that. And then that to roll the edge over. I'm just trying to think what I can do here. What I was thinking was actually on the lathe, putting a bit of bar or something in the tool head of the lathe, and then just as it's spinning, just slowly put some pressure on it, and it would actually get hot, and then push it around enough and close the end up. If I had to open it up a little bit, it wouldn't have mattered. I was just trying to think what else I could do that with. Probably use the drill press, maybe, and see if I can make something up that would do that. Yeah, no. Trying to think what I can do. It's either that I just build the edge of it up with weld and then just shape it over, as long as it, you know, it doesn't need to be much, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it might be just as easy. I might just build the end of it up with weld in it. As long as the spring will go down there and stay there, that's all that really matters, isn't it? Righty, so I've got me new casing made. It's still a little loose. Just trying to decide what I'm going to do. Because it's the length of this. I'll find where's the other housing. Try and show you how much I made it. And I'll explain what I did. I kind of did it off thing. Basically what I did is when I cut the piece of tube off to what length I wanted, I actually built the whole end up with weld. I closed it right over, shaped it, then got a drill bit the right size. Not this one, I don't think. Yeah, it was another one, but basically run it down in there and trued the bottom of it up as without breaking through, and then I run a smaller bit down, and obviously that used the centre, and I used the pillar drill, broke that through, and then shaped the bottom of it. Actually, I put the piece of tube in the drill on the pillar drill and just used my Rolex to shape it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I did. If I can show you how much shorter this is, actually might be easy to take it off. Hold on, I'll take it off and I'll come back to you. Righty, hopefully you can sort of see how much shorter it is. Where that piece comes down to is where the thread was. You can see that. So it's about that much shorter. I actually shortened the spring. I took basically a coil off it, just so it didn't sit up quite so high. And obviously shorted the inner shaft and cut another wee groove in it. So it was all closer up together. But it's almost borderline too long still, unfortunately. But it's not a major I can do it. I could probably trim the end off a little bit and rebuild it up and just make it a little bit shorter again. Just so, mainly so this can be, with the spring tension, be pulled up a little bit tighter. But yeah, it's like way better than it was. Just before it was way too long. Like, you know, how you seen it was really rattling around. You'd almost get away with it now, because it's probably no looser than that one is, if you know what I mean. But I still got to paint it anyway, so. But yeah, so I'm just trying to decide whether I am going to try and make it slightly shorter, or whether I can maybe take a little bit of material off here. Not that it's going to make a massive amount of difference. But yeah, so that's basically what I did. Yeah, we built there. We just built it up with weld. Just went around and built it up until I closed the hole. A little bit of shaping here around that drill bit down inside, which basically centered, gave me a nice center in the middle. I got a gear drill that was the almost exact right size. It's actually still here. Yeah, that one. So it's perfect size. So it's got to follow that. So basically, as you put the piece in here, run it down until, you know, I could feel that it was biting into the bottom and giving me a center. And then I run that through. And then I also use the Rolex to clean the end of it up. And yeah, it's pretty much what I did. So it wouldn't be difficult to make, you know, if you're missing one. You know, maybe you had a thing, but the arena was all rotted off. If you could find a piece of conju, that's what a lot of these are made out of. So yeah, worked well. You know, it just takes a little bit of thinking and just build up with weld, grind it off, run that drill down there into the centre. I actually had to do it twice because I broke through too far the first time, and I just wouldn't go quite as deep to try and clean it up in the bottom. So it was nice, and yeah, and then just run the smaller bit using the centre in, and yeah, dial up and make it ready to paint, basically. So yeah, well, I'll decide whether I'm going to make it any shorter and then clean all these other bits up to just tidy up a little bit where I've had to open them up, and we'll go from there. But I don't think anybody would know, except for it's probably a quarter of an inch shorter.